All right. There we go. All right, now we're recording.
So I just sent Erin a Slack message. She's on Slack, so I would assume she'll be joining us.
Yeah, I saw her. I was looking at the Google Doc, and she appears to be on there as well. So,
Of course, they're probably just open tabs on her computer. Who knows what she's actually doing?
yeah, that's how it lives for me most of the time. Oh, there she is.
Heyo.
Heyo.
Hey.
Having one of those
No
meetings
problem.
that could have been an email.
Yeah.
One of those fun ones.
Do you have someone who doesn't like to do emailing conversations?
Not normally, but today, yes.
My boss, she would much rather do things over the phone than email.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'm like, okay, but then we forget shit.
Right. Remember that time we talked about that thing and we decided to do that? Do you know what that thing was?
Do you remember what we talked about? Because I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think for time's sake, we just get rolling. I know Laura's not going to be able to join us, so we're just kind of waiting on Garrett.
It seemed like everybody was going to be able to join today, but
Laura sent a Slack message yesterday to the Outdoor Grind channel, and she just said that she's got a offsite thing all day today, so she won't
gotcha.
How's research going for everybody?
It is going. I did a decent amount of mine a couple weeks ago. I was out of the office last week. We had our sales meeting last week. So in full disclosure, I did nothing related to this last week, but I did do some the week prior to that. So it was good, but I think I shared a lot of what I had with you guys sort of the last time about the Leave No Trace folks and, just in that conversation. Happy to rehash that again.
If you wouldn't mind, I'd love to hear it. I wasn't able to get on the other one.
I'm sort of long of the short, honestly, was that I left. So I had a really good conversation with, her name is Nina. I'm trying to find my notes here. And she's the executive director. She's been there for 24 years. So she's been there for a hot minute. And, I left the conversation a little defeated because I felt like they were already doing a lot of what we are trying to accomplish, to be honest. And then I sort of tried to let's do a little design thinking and refocus, right? And so then what I came up with was we should probably utilize the educational portion that they're already doing to help us. I think that, again, there's no reason to rewrite the book here. And they, I think, do a really, really good job at making sort of stewardship, I guess, for lack of a better word, accessible and relatable for everybody. So no matter if you're just going on a hike because your friends are going, or if you're a hardcore enthusiast, I think that it makes it just, they have these 7 principles that they sort of abide by and plan ahead and prepare, travel and camp on durable surfaces, dispose of waste properly, leave what you find, minimize campfire impacts, respect wildlife, be considerate of other visitors. So I really think that they have a good, really high level opportunity to sort of do some education. And then she said that they're actually starting, so they're US wide, I guess, but they have an office in Boulder. So Colorado is a big focus for them, I guess she was saying, but it basically, she was saying that they have a hard time getting to people before they come to the state. And so since tourism is so big there, that they are going to work with the, I guess it's the Colorado Tourism Board or whatever, to try to get some campaigns, and maybe it's a newsletter. When somebody books a trip, it's like partnering with them to get them a newsletter that's like sort of preparation steps and educational steps before they get there. Like, what do they bring? What do they not bring? What do they plan to do, not plan to do, that kind of stuff. So that was kind of interesting. The conversation was really good, honestly, and she said she'd be willing to have it with anybody. I know Garrett said that he might reach out and have a conversation with her, but she was like really nice, really helpful. I think she had a little bit of a hard time sort of wrapping her head around like what it is that we're doing, and I think that's been a little bit of a hard concept for everybody just to sort of understand. But it was good. I had a really good conversation with her, and she did say they'd be helpful and supportive, again, not knowing a ton about the program just yet, but that, that they'd be willing to talk with us about how they could support.
Yeah, a lot of that kind of goes into, I had a conversation with someone from the National Forest Service, or I think they're a nonprofit that works like for the support the national forests. But she was saying that sort of the same issues, like once they're there, it's kind of too late to deal with those issues. And so she was saying like they need to do a lot more to sort of get the word out in advance of people showing up. But most of the like BLM and National Forest Service, who are the two people that I talked to, both had a lot of the same issues as like the actual like usage of the land is sort of their big thing. Like people, I guess there's a place in Grand Junction where like people will go and just like literally like just throw bags of trash out of their truck, like as a dump. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So
that's where my boss lives. I'll have to ask her about that.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll know about it. Yeah, somewhere outside Grand Junction, they're having that issue, and yeah, some human waste issues, and National Forest Service also brought up like just parking. Like people who like once the lot's full, they just start like piling on the side of the road, and it's like that's not sustainable. That's just creating a larger footprint than what we can do.
Who was talking about?
Thinking about what we did for our retreat, just pull off to the side of the road and wander across the freeway.
I can't remember if I read it or we talked about it now, but somebody was talking about, and maybe one of the people I talked with, but they were talking about parking being a big issue as well, and how this summer they were going to try to do like shuttle services from certain places. So like it's like a park and ride type of idea because it had gotten so out of control.
Yeah.
It was interesting. The woman I had the best conversation with on the education side really didn't have anything to do with her academic institution at all. She is just a very concerned and active citizen who happens to be working for for a group. But her whole take on it was around to protect the pristine places, they need to have more places in the metro for people to be able to recreate. And so she's working with the Metro Denver Nature Alliance to create more spaces and stuff like that in the actual metro area, so people are not driving all the way up to the mountains and doing all that other kind of stuff. And I think kind of is a different take, but similar to what you're hearing as well on that. So
the National Forest Service woman I talked to was really helpful. She gave me some great ideas about ways that we could sort of steer VOC around marketing as opposed to doing like the big billboards and other things that they have planned. She was talking about more like cost-effective things that she thought would have a bigger impact. She was just talking about before you go, sort of like pamphlet and flyers that could be at National Forest ranger stations, or it could be on BLM, like to just sort of place in those, or even place at trailheads, like places where people go to like pick up maps, stores, anything like that, right? Have like a little, and I'm sure Leave No Trace has a little leave behind or something, right? So it could be very similar to that. And maybe just with a different focus, like not specifically on what to do when you're on the trail, but like what to know about before you go to the trail, like parking and other things that Leave No Trace doesn't grab onto.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like the know before you go. I don't know if you just made that up or if that somebody else actually uses that, but
I've heard it before, but I don't know where it came from.
Tyler, you just made it up. That's the
Yeah.
answer.
And then she was just saying that for them, the national forest, like White River National Forest, which is between, it's like where Loveland Pass is. So like we drove over it to get to our Breckenridge Lodge. That pass is right in the middle of White River National Forest. She was saying that national forest sees more traffic in a year than Yellowstone and Rocky Mountain National Park combined. And so like people are unaware because there's no like gate, right? There's no like, you don't have to pay an entrance fee, so there's maintenance issue, there's like cost issues around national forests too, where like the public doesn't support it in the same way that they do national parks. And there's also just like acknowledgement issues, like there's no way of really letting people know like, hey, you're in a protected area now. So some education stuff is another aspect of what she wanted to see, sort of an educational, broader educational tint to everything. And BLM was sort of the same thing. So I think most of the government agencies I feel like are probably going to have like an educational component to like what they want, any campaign to sort of do for them.
Hey guys. Sorry I was late.
All right.
No worries.
Can I share something I learned?
Of course.
Please.
So I had a good call with Jennifer Peterson from Rocky Mountain Field Institute, and we continue to discover more backstory to the whole Nettie Yeti thing. She was part of that original group, and I found out what that group was. And maybe this is already in some of our materials, but there's the statewide stewardship initiative that was supported by Great Outdoors Colorado, which is a Colorado statewide organization. And there's all these other nonprofits like hers, which is specific to a certain region, and others that are specific to other regions that all kind of did similar things. But anyways, they were on this part of this statewide stewardship initiative and part of an advisory council that helped. They helped do a lot of things. They created these 4 working groups, and one of the working groups was about the campaign, a campaign, which is I think where this whole thing spawned. And there was other working groups, one around best practices, one around metrics. And the metrics one was interesting to me because that group developed metrics for all these organizations to be able to use the same metrics so that they could consolidate the data at a statewide level and make the reports meaningful and impactful. So I thought it would be interesting to get a little bit more into those metrics and find out what they're going to use to measure success, and so that we can make sure our efforts, our recommendations for their efforts go directly towards those type of metrics, at least. So I plan to continue to talk.
That's interesting.
In that advisory council, because they're already on my list. But
I think from my understanding that Great Outdoors Colorado, they call it GOCO, is their, I think it's what I think is from my understanding is that they are responsible for taking the lottery dollars that people play the lottery and like disseminating it into educational sort of opportunities. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and when I was talking to her about this whole campaign and how long term, the intent isn't for it to be owned by VOC necessarily, but organized and controlled by a separate committee of some sort. She was kind of like thinking a statewide organization would be a good place for that, because like she's just one region, they focus on one region, and they look to organizations like the funders, like GOCO and others that interact with organizations all over the whole state. And so it makes sense that they look to an organization like that to own and distribute the campaign at a higher level. So
yeah, which totally makes sense, right?
But it was good too. I got into some of the details of what she thought the campaign needed to make her organization successful. I think she was tainted a little bit because she's seen these other presentations, and she got the survey that we emailed to, where she's like, they're about communicating, organizing people to get outside and work and learn. And there's a big educational aspect to their efforts, to the people that are there. And they do educational lessons and trainings and things at those events. They also do newsletters. But it was interesting when I talked about, because she had seen the things from Karsh Hagen about like billboards and ad campaigns, and she was like, whoa, that's like millions of dollars. And I was like, yeah, I know. But she said, what's the quote here? I said, she still thought some people, yes, you need to hit them with like emails and stuff like that, or education trainings, but still some people need something in their hand to like take away. There's still that value of takeaways. And so she was talking about swag, t-shirts and stickers and hats and stickers and things. And she wanted it to be more like useful swag, not just a flyer that gets thrown away, but water bottles and things like that, or socks and things that people do in the outdoor industry a lot of times for that same reason.
Yeah. Then it's like to play the other side of it, right? It's like, let's make more apparel to go into the landfill. And sorry, a little Hague index on my brain here, I guess, but yeah. No, but I do agree. I think that there is something to be said about a tangible item like that, where you put it on when you first get it, or right, and then like a week later, a month later, whatever, you put it on again, and then you think about it, and it's more of a sticking point.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear also that they're not completely fundraising driven, because they're a nonprofit that they get a lot of their funding from these statewide organizations and grants and things like that. So their kind of big year-end event, they call it their fall shindig, it's not mostly fundraising. It's mostly a party to bring together their people that have helped them all year. And then there's a small mention of fundraising, versus other organizations, they kind of have like a gala or a specific fundraising event. This is more like a backyard barbecue for a bunch of their workers. So it's cool.
Yeah. We call it friend raising is the
I like it.
Is the term.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I like where they're coming from. I would steer away. I mean, I think from my perspective, like what you're talking about is kind of the traditional environmental nonprofit, playbook, right, for something like this. So I think while it's interesting and everything, I think what I think would be more effective from our perspective would be to take that and think about how to improve upon it for this rollout, and not just kind of redo, what their suggestions are, because, that's kind of where everybody's coming from already. And we're not really, I think, the hope is that we're going to bring something new and creative, to the mix to make this, really pop, and not just be, another program by another nonprofit that's kind of accomplishing similar goals,
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, one data point, but it was informative.
Yep. I do like that idea though of kind of, I guess, the Higg Index, they're creating their own kind of their metrics is very interesting to me, and making sure that we're kind of working. I think working with that is actually going to help, kind of seeing where they find value, in this project is going to really help us define how we can help them, really crush this one and make it even better than before.
Yeah, I'll be sure to ask these other groups about those working groups and the metrics and things, try to get a hold of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, did it sound like those had already been put together, Garrett? Or do you think that they're still working through that?
I'm not sure. It
Okay.
sounded like they had already done it, or at least in process. So
Cool. Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I think that like a benchmark, right, is everybody needs a benchmark.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
Doug, what are the academic groups saying?
So the really, the good conversation I had, like I said, was with this woman from this Rocky Mountain Land Use Institute, but wasn't, again, very much of a take from an academic position. I haven't been able to really get a hold of anybody. Let's see, who are the other people?
It's end of the school year for all of them, probably. They're like,
yeah, so I got a couple responses, and we've been trying to get some pieces down, but I just didn't, and from her perspective on it, it just didn't feel like it was going to be a fit for a lot of the academic institutions off the bat. She felt like they're just kind of brought in, as a little bit of a player, but not necessarily somebody that's going to be really super engaged on it. Although just kind of looking through the two that actually did respond at a time, it looks like there's some interest there as well. So
I wonder too if maybe there's an opportunity as far as academic institutions go, is depending on some of the routes that we go, but maybe there's something to be said about like reaching inward to like the outdoor rec kind of internal groups at that institution, just start, like have just a starting point, right? Versus trying to find somebody that's like campus wide or whatever, for lack of.
yeah, I think the idea that I was playing around with was, I don't know if this is what you're suggesting, but reaching out to like the student groups.
Yeah.
That are going to be there, and seeing what that is. I mean, maybe the best idea there would be to see if VOC actually works with any of these student groups, or I suppose that, like I said, it's not too hard to just go to their university club web pages and figure them out.
I wonder too if one of our, or at least part of our recommendation, sort of to tag on to the end, is maybe we can make a connection to some of these more invested institutions who have maybe like a marketing degree or something, and we can just say, hey, we've already made this connection for Netted Yeti. Like, these are the people who are interested in helping you further. So maybe we can make this like a student project to kind of help VOC keep pushing this along once we step away.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be a great master's project or master's class project or something, for
Yeah, the thing with we're gonna have to move quick though, because once those kids are gone for the summer, they're gone. Trying to
not the kids though, professors, right? Like getting a professor. I know I had a professor who.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
He like research, and he just got his students to do all the legwork, right? So basically, same thing. Like we have a professor interested in sort of doing a campaign or something, and then the next semester or two semesters later, or whatever, when he's got sort of a plan in place, the students can do the legwork, and VOC will reap the benefits. Just a thought. Not not super pertinent to how we need to proceed, but maybe a nice thing if we can kind of work that on the side.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess the question I have is, how are folks feeling about the research part of this? Are we feeling like we need to dig in a little bit more with some of these groups? I feel like, Garrett, you're probably have the most intriguing thing again with that metrics piece. Anybody else, feel like we need to kind of get more opinions and thoughts on it, or kind of feeling like we don't need to talk to everybody. I think we've got a pretty good sample of what the community is looking for.
I think so.
I think maybe we hear a little bit from Laura about some of the things that she was hearing. But I think we need to kind of move on and figure out like what are going to be the key, handful of options of what's going to be the key sort of driving force behind this campaign. Or the message.
Yeah, we just give ourselves some more check-ins and keep bringing information to the table.
Yeah, I think maybe we have a call later in the week. All right. And
Friday.
Laura said she could be on that. So maybe, we hear a little bit from Laura about what she's been doing. And then maybe we all come with some ideas about the messaging and where it goes. And we can chat a little bit about that with Shelly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me.
Friday, I am going to try to make the call. I'm going to be traveling, so I'm going to try to step away from what I'm doing and make the call. So just so you know, I might not be in there.
Okay. There's also, we have that campfire session at 11, or it's 11 my time as well. So I didn't know if that's going to be an issue for anybody, like making both. No. Okay.
I don't think so. Yeah.
No, I think the idea, at least my idea, was to just kind of put them together so I could just block off that entire chunk and not, as opposed to trying to spread it out. So
cool.
Friday afternoon,
Yeah.
FLA.
Awesome. Doug, would you mind sending me just the re-invite for Shelly too? For some reason, my phone and computer aren't synced up well.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Did whatever I did today work for you? That obviously you got on. So yeah, that was sweet. Yep. All right. I will do the same thing again.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Let's spend a little thinking time, and we'll have some ideas on Friday, hopefully.
Cool.
Sounds
I'll
good.
probably plug in a little bit and try to figure out something about those student groups, see if there isn't anything there, and maybe try to track down a professor or two this week before they're all gone. So, sweet.
Sorry, guys. My phone's ringing. I'm going to jump off.
Oh.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.